What I love about my discipline really is my students, more than anything else. I love the young folks and of any stripe, color, creed, what have you, because they're curious and they want to know something that will make a difference in their life. And what I tend to do in interacting with them and being with them is to talk about something that I think every young Canadian is confronted with, and that is choices about managing their money. So, what I really love about not money per se, but what I love about the discipline is that almost all of the decisions that young people are going to make at a very early age are going to affect them for the rest of their life and are going to form habits, habits of mind, habits of ways in which they will look at the world, and also how they will look at themselves. So, a lot of the financial decisions we take for granted that someone else will figure out the calculations or the implications, but in fact, implicitly, when you're making them, you're the one who is taking responsibility for those kinds of decisions. So, I'll speak about the decisions in a moment, but some of the things I'd emphasize to young Canadians is that, first of all, you don't have to be a math wizard to be financially literate. Financial decisions are for everybody to make, and don't ever be intimidated by the numbers behind, because I think that kind of is the first instinct or reaction people have is, this is numbers stuff, someone else will deal with it. The other thing is that learning about money or managing your money is, I think, as important as learning about nutrition or about sports or about music, because it kind of transcends all the things that we do, and it becomes something that is related to your health, and in this case, your financial health. It also has a lot to do with attitudes that you have that will influence your relationships over time, and as I mentioned, about your own identity. So, a lot of young people feel that, boy, if I had enough money, I'd just retire tomorrow and I'd be liberated. And I would say to you that as many benefits as money will bring to you, it can also suffocate you. And we know of so many people, very successful, very intelligent, living the high life, but also very unhappy. So what is it about this phenomena that we should be dealing with as soon as we can? And I would say to anyone who's listening to this, that please remember that these financial habits that I'm talking about are very hard to change when you get older. And so those unhappy people are unable to change their financial habits. But you can make those changes at a very young age, because we tend to get stubborn as we get older. So those are some things to keep in mind. There are lots of challenges, because think about, let's look at a typical young Canadian who's starting out making their own life. What is the first thing they do? Get a job. To get a job, well, there's all these forms that you get on the first day that you sign up. They say, okay, for your taxes, sign here. For your pension, sign there. And you basically sign all these forms, typically without reading what's in there. But you need to know that many of those decisions you're making on that first day at work are going to affect you for the rest of your life, in terms of whether you're going to match contributions from your employer, what your take-home pay means, where your taxes are going, things like that. But also, if you think of other life decisions, when you get your job, you need to live somewhere. Are you going to lease the apartment? Are you going to go back to your parents' place? Are you going to buy a car? All of these have financial implications, and they're big decisions. And probably the biggest one that Canadians face is their home, to buy a house. And many young people want to have their own place rather than paying rent. Something that they can take care of, something that is part of the roots that they're going to plant for the rest of their life. And it's a huge decision. And many people will sign up just because they have been swayed by what everyone else is doing or what the real estate agent told them to do. And it's not just about reading fine print. It's about simply informing yourself that I know every young student can, and you perhaps can start at high school. I don't think we have to wait till university to do this. And this is a problem in Canada because people are not getting financially literate. And so my message is that it's not difficult. There are many online courses available where you can sign up and at your own pace learn and come up with strategies that work for you, because everyone has to have their own set of how they're going to deal with these life decisions. So if you want a tip, for example, if you go to the bank, they'll probably give you a couple of % these days to save your money. But if you go to your employer and say, I'll match what you will pay me for my retirement, this is 100% rate of return. You can't get a better rate than making decisions like these. The other thing I would say that's really important for me is when you do your budget, if you do one, all the bills that you have to pay, right? They loom large in a young person's life. I mean, you've got a whole list of bills to pay. But often the biggest and most important expense is to pay for yourself. And that should be on top of your list. Pay you, you're more important than Bell Canada or your iPod or whatever else you're trying to pay for. Pay yourself first and then pay everybody else. And by paying yourself first, you can do this without even making a budget. Simply take a percentage of the paycheck that you're getting and put it away in an account that's going to grow. The magic of compounding will work for you. And I can tell you that the equivalent of having 1 cup of coffee every day will have $1 million waiting for you at your retirement by simply taking away the equivalent of 1 cup of coffee every single day for your savings. So there are lots of little things that you can do. You've got to be patient. You've got to ask yourself, should I sleep well or should I eat well? And what I mean by this is sleeping well or eating well is a metaphor for how much risk you want to take. Because every investment involves risk. And nobody can figure this out for you other than yourself in terms of your tolerance for risk. What capacity do you have? Because what we've seen in finance is that the more risk you take, the more reward you get. But it's a very bumpy ride. And so there are times where you feel despair that all of my investments are down the tube. But if you've done just a little bit to inform yourself, the ride can be a lot smoother than you think. I think every young Canadian knows that getting a business degree in finance or accounting or marketing even, any of these disciplines, you're probably ahead of a lot of people in getting a job. A lot of people take this discipline to get a job. The problem is everybody's saying the same thing, and so it's getting crowded, and there's a lot of competition. So my advice would be, or at least my suggestion would be, how are you going to distinguish yourself? What are you going to do that's going to be different in preparing yourself entry into this very crowded competitive marketplace? And that could mean, doing odd jobs, nothing to do with finance, doing volunteer work or traveling to places where you give a part of your life to other people to help them, because you have to start somewhere, you have to show that you have breadth, and you have to be able to adapt to life on life's terms and not on your terms. So if you get your first job where people are asking you to do things that have nothing to do with finance, no worries. That's the way you increase your experience, and you will draw on it as you move ahead in life. So I think that don't be seduced by the high salaries that some people are earning. And I can tell you that many of my students are earning over 100, sometimes 200,000 in their mid-20s. How is this possible? Is it just because they got a finance job? The answer is not really. Partly it's true that the job affords you a lot of opportunities and growth, but really the key is those things that our parents tell us. Work hard, be disciplined, love your subject. Don't choose this area as a career choice if you're really not passionate about it. You have to have that fire in you. And those that do can do very well, very early in life, and continue that and expand their horizons. So I think if you prepare yourself, my real message is prepare yourself and life will give you more chances. And in this way, you can make a difference.